everyone, I'm Dr. Pat Cosentino, Superintendent of Region 12. We're here today with another informative show for our parent and community members out there who want to hear about what's going on at Shepaug. Today we're going to talk about our curriculum and assessments and changes that have been made at Shepaug to really help students and parents have a better understanding of what they're learning and assessing what they're learning, what they know, what they don't know, what they need to work on. And we have two of our experts with us. We have our principal, Mrs. Kim Gallo, and we have our assistant principal, Mrs. Lori Ferreira. So welcome, and I'll have you start, Kim.
Sure. One of the most common things that parents say to me is, I try to talk to my kids about their school day. I say, how was your day, or how did that test turn out? And they say, fine. That doesn't really give them much information. With the inception of Parent Portal, parents are now looking at what used to be private and sacred, the teacher's grade book.
Exactly.
It's a shift for all of us, but I'm hoping it's a very positive shift for both parents and students. It's good to see how you're doing. Mm-hmm. How many of us have had one of our children who aren't doing terribly well at the time, they get one good quiz grade and they say, okay, all set.
Right.
With Parent Portal, students and parents can look at their grades and look and see what their progress is like. Also, with secondary school reform and the Common Core, it's very important that we ensure equity for our students. What that means is, I know you know, what that means is that we need to ensure that all kids are on the same path. That path may look different. I would never want to take teachers' creativity and nuance away in the classroom. People have unique ways of conveying information. However, they should be on the same path. We shouldn't be making decisions right from day one that says, this kid is going to go this far and this kid is going to go this far. It's not fair, and it's a problem in education. Mm-hmm. So what we've done this year, and Ms. Ferreira has taken the very lead role in this, and I'm very pleased about that, is to structure our assessment and our structure of our classrooms so that there is a path that everyone follows. And what I'd like Ms. Ferreira to talk about is especially formative, interim, and summative assessments, because that is the path.
Absolutely. That
we use. And it's language that should become so familiar to parents that they stop even saying quiz.
Sure, absolutely.
Lori?
Okay, before I talk a little bit about formative, interim, and summative assessments, I want to back up very briefly and talk about Common Core. There's a lot of mixed feelings about Common Core, but one of the things that Common Core does really well is it identifies the discrete skills that students should learn so that they can get to the higher order complex applications of thinking and of concepts and skills, as they call it. So they have identified through the different grade levels the discrete skills that students should learn to get them to something very high order. For example, let's say that you want a student to be able to write or speak a very sound, logically structured argument. There's a lot of smaller skills that go into that. Students first have to learn what is a position statement and how do you make one? What evidence supports a position? How much evidence is relevant? How much evidence is sufficient? How much evidence should I include? How do I explicitly link the evidence that I've chosen to my position? How do I structure it so that everyone understands every point of argument, how I've structured my evidence, and then how do I get people to agree with me? So Common Core does a very good job of structuring the scaffolded skills so that we know what leads up to the higher end, complex, real world application of those skills. So as we write curriculum through all the disciplines, we're looking at all those discrete skills, grouping them, and then making them lead to the highest end performance. Our assessment follows that path exactly. So we don't just say to a student, okay, now we want you to write a complete argumentative essay with perfectly sound reasoning. What we say to the student is, we're going to give you instruction down here of all these discrete skills that are the foundation of argumentative writing. And we're going to measure each one of those discrete skills with a little formative assessment. And we're not going to move on until we make sure you've got them all down. So a student can have a formative assessment every day or every couple of days. The teacher is using that formative assessment to guide instruction on a daily basis. So when parents look at the grade book, they should see many formative assessments, because every couple of days a teacher is doing a formative assessment to make sure the student has mastered the discrete skill taught in that lesson before they move on to the higher order complex skills.
And let me just add to that. So the formative assessment is so important for students and for the teachers, so they can see, this is what I know, this is what I'm able to do,
Yes.
this is what I still have to work on.
Yes.
So that's a very different direction from the past.
Yes.
Where this is what I taught, this is what you were supposed to learn, this was the test, you got it or you didn't get it. And we moved on.
Right, and the old-fashioned path, even when I was a teacher, was this is your lesson plan, this is your unit plan, this is your curriculum, and you marched on. Now, if we are teaching a set of discrete skills about argumentative reasoning, let's say, and the students aren't ready, we don't move on.
Right.
And that's what the formative assessment tells us.
Well, the
Or-
hope is when students are in a classroom, and how many times have you had this happen as a teacher, that you say, are there any questions? And you know there's questions.
Sure.
Kids don't have them.
Exactly.
Well, perhaps they don't have them because they don't know what to ask.
They don't know how to
Right.
formulate the question
That's
yet.
right. That's right.
Right.
And the other piece that I was going to add is that it also then helps teachers to be able to differentiate, because when you give that
Right.
formative assessment,
Right.
there may be kids who can move on.
Yep.
So now I'm going to have maybe two groups
Yeah, and that's
moving,
okay. be-
And that's fine.
Because you've planned your curriculum accordingly.
Exactly.
So what will happen in the classroom now is we will teach the discrete skills in the proper order. We will give many formative assessments to make sure the students are learning those discrete skills. Then at a certain point in time, we will group a set of discrete skills together and say, okay, the student is ready to move from all these discrete skills to now looking at someone else's argument and analyzing it. Right?
Yes.
Let's look at someone else's argument. Is their position statement clear? Do they have valid points of argument? Is the evidence that they give relevant and sufficient to support each point? Do they have an insightful, logically progressed conclusion? So we would ask the student, okay, now you're going to analyze someone else's argument. That would be considered an interim assessment, because now you've taken all these discrete skills, now apply them. Then you're going to teach another set of discrete skills about writing. Here's how you would write your own argument. This is how you structure. After you teach that set of discrete skills, now you might give a very high stakes, what you would call a high stakes summative assessment. And you're going to say to the students, you're going to take all the skills you learned about analyzing someone else's argument, you're going to take all the skills you learned about writing, and you're going to put them all together, and now you are going to become the master arguer. And that will be the summative assessment. So over the course of a grade book, let's say for a specific quarter, and I'm an English teacher, I would expect a parent to see several formative assessments. Let's say maybe 10 to 12 formative assessments, maybe even more. Maybe 6 to 8 interim assessments, and only 2 summative assessments.
Right.
Because you can't have that many high-stakes assessments over the course of a quarter. If you do, you're not teaching enough. You're doing too much assessing. And so we structure it like a pyramid. Many formatives, a middle amount of interims, and then only a few summatives, and that's what you call your pyramid. And you weight your pyramid so that a student might have 12 to 20 formatives, let's say, but all those formatives together are only going to count for 25% or 30% of the grade. What you're looking at there is practice and effort. That's what you're looking at. Then when you get to the interim, maybe you have 6 interims. Those 6 count as another 30% of the grade. Then when you get to the summative, you only have 2 summative. But those 2 might count as 30 or 35% of the grade. So you do 2 things. You have your pyramid for formative, interim, and summative, and then you weigh your pyramid so that the student does not ever have to worry about taking a risk. The formatives allow the students to take intellectual risks, to practice, to explore without fear.
Sure.
And then your interims are moderate. They really are moderate, and if the kids don't get it, you go back. If they get it, you teach more skills, and then only then do you go to the high-stakes summative assessments. So the curriculum follows the scaffolded steps of instruction, and your assessment pattern, your assessment pyramid, does the same thing. Many formatives, a few interims, and only a couple of high-stakes summatives. And the path of assessment in a good classroom follows the path of curriculum, and that's what we're doing. And the other thing that we're doing that is very important for kids and parents to know is that if a child is in, let's say, a grade 11 humanities course, and one child has me for a teacher, one child has Kim for a teacher, one child has Pat for a teacher, we are offering the same curriculum and the same summative assessments. So there's equity. Do we offer the same formative assessments? No, because the formative assessments are based on the child's needs. We all are going to have different children. Our formative assessments are going to be different. Do we offer the same interim assessments? Probably, for the most part.
For the most part.
But we're not lockstep because we have to meet the needs of kids.
Right.
Do we offer the same summative assessments? Do we get them to the same point in the path? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And that's what you're talking about.
With equity and
Right.
making sure that
And,
kids
and so
understand that
when a
path.
parent opens a grade book and they see
Right.
a lot of formatives,
Right.
that's good. They see several interims, that's how it's supposed to be. And then they see only 2 or 3 summatives, that's exactly following the pyramid, and that's exactly what that teacher is supposed to do. Formative means exactly that. You're forming the learning.
Right.
Interim is your midpoint, and summative are those few high stakes where you say, you've got it. Now we can go on to something different.
Right.
And what parents can see, and more importantly, what students can see, is how those formatives, interims, and summatives are affecting their progress. I already had an email from a parent who was saying, I really love the parent portal because I could see that my son or daughter was mastering the formative skills but wasn't quite translating it to the interim. So we were able to have a conversation about how do you study? How do you get that information?
Right.
What extra help is available to you so that you can make that next step? If you're doing all of your formatives well and you're not doing well on your interims, it does suggest a problem with either the way the information is being presented or the way that you're studying. And parents are already seeing that they can do that.
Many times when you have a child that will do, I'll take it one step further, they'll do
Sure.
very good on the formatives and very good on the interims.
Right.
And they don't do well in the summatives.
Right.
Now you have to ask yourself, is it anxiety? Is it test anxiety? They know the material. Is it test strategy? They don't know how to approach a test. They don't know how to manage their time
point, yep.
to get through and these are skills you really want to know before they go to college.
Absolutely.
Sure. Absolutely.
You don't want to just make sure they know the concepts and skills. You want to make sure they know the strategies to succeed.
Right.
So that's a secondary benefit, but it's an important benefit.
Right. You know, parents can also see that if they're looking at an AP class in the parent portal. They can also see that we are progressing towards college preparatory skills because when you look at AP courses, they are top-heavy on the summative tests.
Well,
Right.
and they're going to weigh it
And
differently.
content.
That's
For
right.
example, a grade 9 English course might weigh, I'm going to make this up, but it's not really made up. I'm going to use an example. 40% might be formative,
Right.
40% might be interim, and 20% might be summative. You go to an AP class, it's going to be 50% of the grade
That's
is weighted
right.
on summative.
That's right.
Because when you go to college, 70 to 80% of your grade is going to be summatives. In fact, when we
Exactly.
went to college, it was just
Almost
a
100%.
midterm and a final, and that was it.
Right, exactly.
Now, colleges, thankfully, are moving away from that.
Yes,
And
they
they're
are.
moving a lot more towards performance-based tasks and more structured, scaffolded, summative,
Right,
interim. I
right.
don't think they do formative, but they do the interim and the summative to help students. So you want your AP to mirror what they're going to get in college.
That's right.
Sure.
It's only fair.
Yeah.
You really want all the classes to mirror what they're going to
Yeah.
get in college.
You want to get them
Absolutely.
there.
That's what we're preparing kids for. I mean, you know, our ultimate goal is for them to be successful after they leave Shepaug.
Right.
So whether they decide to go to a 4-year college, a 2-year college, the military, to the workforce, a career, we want them to be successful. So this feedback is very successful because it really helps the students and the parents to own the learning.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I'm being taught, these are
Exactly.
the skills I need to know, this is what I'm doing, because the formative assessments are short. They can be a 5-minute assessment.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's not a
Sure.
full period test.
No.
It's just a short assessment, assessing, this is what I taught, did you get it, did I not get it? And if I'm not getting it, you know, how am I going to then approach that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how am I going to advocate for myself? Should I go to the teacher? Should I go to an intervention help? Should I go
Right.
see a counselor? All of those things that are skills that they have to know and be able to do when they leave us.
Sure.
So it's a wonderful way to really prepare
And
students.
one of the other things we're doing in the classroom that ties right into this is we're teaching the students the academic vocabulary related to the skill so that the student can advocate precisely. And one of the benefits that I see when I've been going into the humanities classes a lot right now, the students will actually use the language when they're talking to their peers.
That's wonderful.
So you can hear
Right.
students saying, I can't get a clear introduction, or my conclusion is only a summary. I need to have my conclusion have an insightful final judgment. They are using the words that the teachers used to only use.
Exactly.
And now they can talk to each other and help each other. And that goes a long way, Pat, when you were talking about differentiation. Because if some students are struggling and other students get it, they can talk to each other and help each other
Sure,
also.
absolutely.
Either in the classroom or out of the classroom. But if they're speaking the same language that the teacher is speaking and they're understanding that language, everybody progresses faster.
Sure, sure. Yeah, well, it's a wonderful shift that's going on at Shepaug. And first, I'm thrilled that Power School is here. I've used it in the past, and it's a wonderful tool for students, parents, and teachers. It takes a little while to get used
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
There is a transition period, and, you know, we talked about that, that, you know, not only for the parents and the students, but for the staff, too.
Absolutely.
You know, as you said, their grade book is open, and they're not used to that, and everyone did it differently, and we're trying to make it a little more uniform, so that's a big challenge. But the staff is doing wonderfully, and, you know, but it's small steps moving towards a goal. And the assessment piece is very big, you know. People always ask about the elementary schools, the middle high school. Well, the elementary schools have really been doing this for a long time. They've been doing
It's
assessments.
very organic at the elementary level.
Exactly.
It really
You know,
is,
when
yeah.
you think about the DRA and you think about the benchmarks,
Right.
you know, that's constant. Kindergarten assessments, you
Mm-hmm.
know, these are the letters, these are the numbers.
Right.
You know, I do it in September, then I do it again in November. You know, and you see what they know, and it's very beneficial. Because it gives teachers really the important information on what kids know, what they're able to do, and what I have to work on. So it's not something that's foreign to the students or to our elementary staff. It's just a different way of looking at it in the middle high school. So, you know, and it's a balance. It's a balance because we are not, you know, testing, and we're not assessing. You know, there's good instruction, there's creative instruction, there's a balance. But this will help us to be, I think, more structured in our approach to improving student achievement and getting students ready and achieving our goals. So I'm excited about it. I really am.
I think everyone can tell that we all are.
Yes, it's wonderful. So it's great.
Yeah.
So thank you, ladies. I know you both have been working very hard with this. We are going to have many more shows on this topic. You know, as always, if you have questions, please call or send an email, you know, because most of the time we have the answers and your questions can be answered very quickly. We are going to be having some parent workshops on the Common Core, more on assessments that are coming down the pike. So try to come to those because they really are helpful, and we will always tape them, so, you know, watch them on Channel 17 or on our YouTube channel on our web. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I want to thank Karen Files out there, who's on the other side of the camera, doing a great job. And this is Pat Cosentino. We are Region 12. Keep watching and practice an attitude of gratitude every day, everyone. Thank you.